Hey guys, Fan here again, and today I will be covering a build I've been testing all day in the open beta. It is a build revolving around Pulverize Fortitude Werebear Druid. So I will be covering the talents that I'm using, and some of the complaints that I often hear about this build are that it's too weak, that people can't generate enough fury, and while they do have some valid points there, I think I've overcome a lot of the weaknesses in the Pulverize build by making some alternative skill tree selections. So I'm going to go over those real quick, and I'm going to show you guys some Pulverize gameplay. While I don't think this is like the best build in the game or anything, as a matter of fact, Druid overall is lacking their class skill in the open beta, so they feel a little bit weak if anything. But this was one of the strongest Druid builds that I tested out of all of them. So I'm gonna talk about it a little bit and show you guys what I've been up to. Starting off with the basic skills. I go for Storm Strike, Enhanced Storm Strike, and Fierce Storm Strike. And right off the bat, for the basic skills, I think this makes a big difference because what I'm seeing is most people think that they want to go Pulverize, which means they want to go Maul upgrades because, you know, Maul is a Werebear ability, so it must synergize with all the other Werebear abilities, right? So I found that Maul is actually not very good at all. It's actually quite bad. And just because you want to go into Pulverize or Werebear build doesn't mean you have to run Maul. First of all, the Maul attack speed is extremely slow, so you know, you're gonna be generating your spirit very slowly, and that is just very, very bad. And on top of that, the Maul upgrades are not that good. Like Fortify for 2% of your base life, it's okay, but it's not amazing. And the rest of these are just they're not really great upgrades. Whereas Storm Strike is a much faster attack animation, so you are generating more spirit, but on top of the attack animation being faster, it also just straight up generates more spirit with 15 per hit instead of 11 per hit. So faster attack animation plus more spirit generated means this one generates way more spirit over a sustained period of time than Maul, which is why we are taking Storm Strike. On top of that, Storm Strike also has a 50% chance to make the enemy vulnerable for 3 seconds, which is, you know, a very big deal. 20% extra damage, very good against pretty much anything you're hitting, but especially boss targets. Whenever you hit them 2, 3 times, they're almost guaranteed to be vulnerable, and then you can follow up with that heavy Pulverize for a lot of extra damage. So, first off, Storm Strike, much better than Maul, in my opinion, for your energy generator. Moving on into the next tier, of course, we're going to max out Pulverize because this is a Pulverize build. You also absolutely need Enhanced Pulverize. Your next Pulverize will overpower every 10 seconds when you are healthy. Overpower is basically like a critical hit, and the more life and fortified life you have, the more damage it does. Overpower itself can also critically strike, so there can be like double modifiers on that one. The next upgrade can be really whatever you want. You don't even really need to take one of these, but I took the damage reduction here because I think this one's a little bit better against bosses. You know, bosses don't get stunned easily, so that's why I went with damage reduction. You can take whichever one you want, though. I think they are both good there. More importantly, we do want 1 point into Heart of the Wild. Heart of the Wild, not a very good skill. 3 Spirit is not a big deal. However, the other 2 talents here are much bigger deals. Wild Impulses is very important. Every point into it increases your core mana cost by 5%, but it also increases the core damage by 10%. So we're maxing this out. It's going to do 30% extra damage on the Pulverize, but at the same time, it's going to make it cost more mana. So instead of costing around 30 mana, it's going to cost 39 mana. And this is where the next part of the synergy comes into handy. So we're also maxing out Abundance here, where our basic skill generates 30% more mana. And this is important because with Abundance maxed out, the 15 mana here becomes 20 mana. And while that may not sound like a huge deal. What it does is 2 Storm Strikes makes for 40 mana, right? So every 2 Storm Strikes you can use a Pulverize, and that leads to a pretty nice chain combo where you're just Storm Strike, Pulverize, Storm Strike, Storm Strike, Pulverize, right? And this is nice because 2 Storm Strikes, very high chance the enemy will be vulnerable, so your Pulverize will benefit from the vulnerable, and you have, infinite mana sustain as long as you're doing 2 Storm Strikes before every Pulverize. Next, we're going to go for Predatory Instinct. This is critical strike chance against close targets. Pulverize is like a AoE ability around you, so whoever you're pulverizing, you're always going to be close to them. So this critical strike chance will apply to Pulverize. Pretty nice ability there. And that moves us on to the defensive skill category. In the defensive skill, I would always take at least 1 point into Earthen Bulwark. I think you got a few options here. Earthen Bulwark into Preserving Earthen Bulwark is very strong. If you need the Unstoppable here, you can always take this option. I'm taking Debilitating Roar into Preserving Debilitating Roar. It's actually very similar. Both of these are going to have Fortify and a good amount of Fortify on the kit. So both of them will give you that. So the only difference here is Debilitating Roar heals you for, 4% of your max life every second for the duration, which is 4 seconds. So it heals you for 16% max life, and enhanced Earthen Bulwark makes you unstoppable. So that's kind of the trade-off there. And the reason that I'm taking Debilitating Roar in my build is because I'm going to be taking the Trample later, which also gives me unstoppable. So I don't really need the unstoppable here. If you do need this, you can just go for this line instead, and you don't need Debilitating Roar. All right, so moving on to the companions. Companions are pretty useful, but I found that none of them really synergize very well with trample. So we're actually going to skip the whole companion tier for this trample build. And we're going to go straight into RAS skills, where the only RAS skill I take is Trample. This is the only mobility option on the whole Druid kit. It's a very far charge that's also non-stoppable, so I do recommend taking this one. I already have an item that gives me a point, so I didn't have to take it, but yeah, if you don't have that, you can just put 1 point into Trample just for the mobility, the unstoppable. Very useful things as well. And that brings us to the ultimate skills. And ultimate skills, I'm still testing out a couple things here. The thing you're going to see me use in the video is actually Petrify. And I know what you're thinking, right? It's a werebear build. Why am I not using Grizzly Rage? Well, you can use Grizzly Rage. That is one option that is fine. You can just go down the talent tree here with all 3 Grizzly Rage talents. I think that synergizes just fine with the Pulverized build. The biggest downside is when you do Grizzly Rage, it forces you into using Maul. It like replaces your abilities with all Werebear abilities, so you have to use Maul, which actually decreases your mana generation while you're in the Grizzly form, but the other upgrades are enough to make up for that. But that is a kind of big downside, which is why I started exploring other options. So while Grizzly Rage will always be a viable tree for this build, I was actually enjoying using Petrify. So what happens is, whenever I meet a group of elite minions, I will just petrify all of them, and then they take 25% extra damage from me, critical strike damage from me, and we have a good amount of crit in the build earlier. You can also get crit from items, and they are also stunned. So I was just kind of like, petrifying all of them and trying to one-shot them with my overpowered pulverize combo. And it was working fairly well. And yeah, it's just something I'm testing, work in progress. If you do go with the Petrify route, you can also do 50% increased strike damage to critical strike damage to bosses, and that is a 6-second duration. So assuming you can build your critical strike chance high enough, this could actually potentially be more damage to a boss than the Grizzly Rage. But once again, I'm still testing that. And if you're going to go Petrify, you can just go 2 points into Quick Shift, where every time you use a shape-shifting skill, it deals 10% increased damage. So basically this one, every time you use Pulverize from your human form, it's going to do 10% extra damage. Not the best, but it's better than these two upgrades in my opinion for the Werebear build. Because we're just trying to maximize the damage on that Pulverize. But yeah, that is the Werebear build that I have been playing. It's felt pretty good in my opinion. The Werebear build and the Earth build are the two most promising ones at the moment, although I think Werewolf might also be viable with more legendary items. I think all of them will be viable with more legendary items. But without a bunch of legendary items, the Werebear and the Earth talents are the ones that I have had the most success with so far. Now, in terms of the legendary items, I don't actually have any of the pulverize items. There's actually at least 2 items with special pulverize effects that will make this build way stronger. I haven't found them. So the only legendary effects that I have that really help out this build is one, the one you're seeing on screen here. When you use a shape-shifting skill that changes your form, gain 44 life. If you're at full life, gain same amount of life as Fortify. Now this is actually really good. 44 is like the max roll there. Yeah, that is a very high number, and our Pulverize is a shape-shifting skill. So basically, every time we pulverize, we gain 44 life. And remember, the combo that we're doing is Storm Strike, Pulverize. Storm Strike, Pulverize. So that combo changes you into human every time you Storm Strike and into bear every time you pulverize. So you're constantly getting this fortify because you are constantly changing from human back to bear, back to human, back to bear. And the other legendary that kind of helps out a little bit right now is this one where your core skill deals extra damage based on your amount of fortify. Once again, you can kind of see this scaling up in higher levels, this idea of all of this fortification and all of the, pulverize and core abilities coming together to make a really good build. I don't really quite have everything because we're level capped at level 25, but that would be the idea of the build. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time for the next video. Check indeed. What are the crypt issues? He made like a 1-hour video on YouTube. You can just Google like crypt Diablo 4 and watch it sometime. An hour video, yep. A lot of issues. Well, I was just talking about Diablo 4 in general. Not all of it was issues. Some of it was good, so. Also watch Aspen react to it in the 1-hour 40-minute video. True. You could do that. You could. I did that.
I must wait a moment.
Okay, no bosses, I'm out. Okay, I'm only looking for bosses. I'm so slow, dude. Are you kidding me? Stupid things shoot out freeze. Oh, mini Jaina's everywhere. Mini Jaina does sound kind of cool though, you're right. I'd be down for a mini Jaina.
I'm not ready yet.
Elite. Okay, I saw some 5k overpowers. Well, the damage is increasing, I guess. 5k overpower is not terrible. Not only was he world first, he was the only to ever do it. Well, him and Crippy, yeah. It was the original Diablo. Not the original. Diablo 3. Original version of Diablo 3. Which was also the hardest version of Diablo 3. I mean, I guess the overpowered build does have some promise. It's like freaking 3-4k AoE, massive AoE. Don't even have the legendary yet. It's probably got promise. Stupid Jainas, man. On D3 vanilla, Crip was the god? Yeah. That's correct.
I'm not ready yet.
This is boss. Boss with artillery shrine.
Wait a moment.
Whatever, I'm down. See now, this is the speed that I would like to kill the boss at. If it killed the boss at this speed, we might be talking. But this is only with an artillery shrine, which is doing 90% of the damage for me. We need to be able to do this damage ourselves, and I don't see that happening. I just don't see it. Don't really see that happening.